So our next presenter is Maarit, and I'll let her introduce herself and tell us about her work.
My idea for this award, I'm really grateful because my starting point I'm grateful for these kinds of awards that have the starting point that I also had, that let's do something that I would do anyway, because I'm involved in many researcher collaborations, as in my role as co-director of Nordicom, and responsible for collaborations between academy and society. So there are really many networks related to media literacy or media and information literacy or film pedagogy or whatever you name it. But the challenge is often, and I guess this is something we all share from our own experience, how to put different actors together to discuss the same topic, because when we are using the term media literacy or media and information literacy or critical media literacy, some of these variants, we don't really know what is it about. And I was myself longing for some tools where you could just identify the components of your own media literacy profile, make them visible for another actor in the field, and then find, if they do the same, then find potential collaborators, or at least actors for benchmarking. Or maybe you are just searching for somebody with maximal difference from your own work, or just searching for actors within a certain field. So my basic idea for this project was to create some kind of a tool to identify and map the media literacy initiatives that are out there, and with this tool visualize some kind of maps of media literacy that can be organized according to the professional fields or geographical fields, or maybe some other types. So that was my original idea. And this is a very Europe-centric project because, as said, I'm working in Sweden, and Nordicom is working in the Nordic countries: Finland, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and Iceland, in Northern Europe. And what's relevant for media literacy is that they are formed in different kinds of ecologies, where the actors are occupying a certain place in the ecology. And I would say that my own how the media literacy, the geographical map, looks like from my perspective is a little bit like this. There's the Global Forum, UNESCO. I've been the co-lead of UNESCO MILID network during the past years, and that's an academic forum to discuss media literacy issues and related research. At the European level, there are of course many forums, but the forum I have chosen has been now the European Communication and Research and Education Association, the Research Media Studies or Media Research Association at the European level. And we actually, I need to share this information with you. We made a proposal for a temporary working group to be included in the ICREA infrastructure, with a focus on media literacies and communication competencies. So let's see if we can create a new forum there. Then there is the international or Nordic sphere for me, and at the Nordic Nord Media Network and the related Nord Media Conference, biannual conference, there is also a research division focusing on media literacy and bringing together Nordic researchers. Then there's the national ecology, which I think is the most important for most of the researchers nowadays who are focusing on media literacy anyway. The national ecology in Sweden has been organized and because the Swedish Media Council received a governmental assignment a couple of years ago to strengthen media literacy in Sweden. We still don't have a centralized media media literacy policy, but their effort was to create a multi-stakeholder network by gathering all the central public authorities into one network, ranging from the National Library of Sweden to for example, Swedish Consumer Agency and media, where media literacy issues could be discussed. And related to that network, also a research network was created, coordinated by Nordicom, and we wanted to have research as a separate network, and they collaborate. But also there, the question is always how to find each other, or how to find a proper question that would be relevant for everyone. Then there are regional and local networks, and quite recently at the regional level around the Gothenburg city, a network focusing on mill was established. So there are clearly many efforts also in the national ecology. And they are also doing some kind of mapping. Every one of them, they have their lists of participants and the central actors. So my idea is also to lean on the work already made by them, not just beginning from the scratch. And now there has been a mapping project at the Swedish Media Council, where I have also been involved a little bit, so that that will certainly produce some an outcome that will be beneficial for me when creating the tool. And then just to mention the many hyperlocal ecologies. A classroom can be an ecology, or a school. So this the media literacy work is happening on at many different levels, and that was why my question about identification of the central components of media literacy actors initiative. I call them initiative because of the Swedish word insats, which is like an investment or an effort, but it can be a project, or it can be a learning resource, like an open educational resource, or just a TV program. So it involves a lot, but the entity that I'm looking at is something that I call an initiative, and there are always the same questions you need to define, as in any communication. Just think about the Laswell formula, who is communicating to whom, and by what means, and with what purposes. So the anatomy of mill initiatives has been my target so far, and then I would like to proceed to making a tool for collaboration. So how can, now that I have identified some basic components in the initiatives, how can this be turned into a more practical tool that I could always have available for the mill actors that I encounter? Well, I guess I don't have very much time to go into this model that I have created, but I have so far I have written a conference paper about this, and I also have a manuscript of a scientific article. So those who are very interested in that right now can always mail me, so I can send you them right away. But those who can still wait, I hope that I will be able to publish this in the form of an article during, this year. But you can never promise anything, as you know, in the academic settings when you get many rejects. But anyway, just to put it short, the mediator is the one who's the educator, but mediator is divided into two. There is the initiator, who is often the funder, financing the activity, and the mediator is then the one who implements the ideas to a target group, which is often age-based, but also have some other undercomponents. Also, when I need to say that I studied about 300 different initiatives, which I retrieved from the Swedish Media Council's database and from the lists of the Finnish Ministry of Education and Culture, which delivers funding for media literacy projects. So these initiatives formed by my sample, and every initiative was always also defining the media type, which also had some different undercomponents. The production type, whether it was about production or analysis or maybe producage, professional communication or amateur communication with different purposes. And the institutional context, whether it was about formal, non-formal or informal learning, or whether it was in the institutionalized environments of some type of a media or in other contexts. I also identified something that I call on pedagogies, in pedagogies, and via pedagogies, how these initiatives relate to the very definition of media. The most initiatives are on pedagogies, like learning something about or on media, but there are also ways of learning about media or being in media through production, for example. And then there's the relative dimension, where you are, like in the STEM disciplines, you are actually learning something else than about media, but through being in media or doing something with media. And these are not these are not categories with clear boundaries, but there are sometimes overlapping and a bit mobile and flexible, and maybe different approaches can be taken within one initiative as well, which I realized when mapping these initiatives. So as said, when it comes to the outcome of the project, the identification part, I hope to be able to produce or I already have a draft for a kind of a more practically oriented brochure manual of what media literacy is, and how to draw the map of media literacy for those actors who are practically working with this concept. And what is important here is to create a manual that is not bound to one concept, because we have so many core concepts in different areas, just to give a broader picture of not only of media literacy or media and information literacy, but the whole breadth, with these components identified. And then the mapping tool, it's pretty simple to produce a kind of a cardboard model or an analogical version of the tool, where you just on paper or digitally click different alternatives. What is your profile about, or your project about? And then you get an outcome, and you can place yourself to a map and see yourself with the eyes of others, and perhaps realize that, oh, I'm actually doing different kind of media literacy work than I was expecting, or I'm closer to those groups of actors than I ever imagined, or something like that. And it works. But my hope, and I guess this will be clearly a sub-project to be realized, is the digital version, which means creating a database that visualizes the outcome as some kind of maps or something. I'm working with a friend of mine who is a Finnish engineer who is very smart in these kinds of things. So I hope he has already said that he he sees the way forward, but what it actually means, I don't know, and whether we need to apply for more funding to be able to realize that, if this is over ambitious or not, I'm not quite sure. And I also have a challenge where to publish all this material, because how to reach out with that. If I just publish it on my personal website, I guess there are not that many people who will find it. So which network to choose to to promote the work? Maybe you can help me here. But anyway, if you have any questions, I would appreciate a lot if you could come in personal contact with me with your input, because there are many things you can still be able to affect at this point. So thank you for my part.